Ashley, your mother is described as singing all day. What was she singing?
My mother sang all day long from many of the hymns, from other songs that she'd picked up on, popular songs, but mainly hymns. She'd grown up in the Anglican Church in Antigua in the West Indies, and those hymns were so much in her and her love of singing that she would sing them. The songs that came from black American slaves were woven into it because they travel the world and people sing them wherever. And so it was just a feeling of voice, and if she weren't singing words, she was just chanting melodies. Always singing. My friend would say, your mother sings when they come. I said, doesn't everybody's mother sing all day long? They were so surprised.
Yeah.
Ashley, when did you learn how to read music?
Well, I grew up during the Depression years, and at that time the government had hired artists and musicians to teach in all neighborhoods throughout the United States. It employed artists and musicians. Now, in my family of 6, my parents could feed, clothe, and shelter us, but they couldn't afford extras. So they sent us out to all the free music, the free art, saying, learn to entertain yourself. So in those basic classes in music, I learned to read music and to play, at that time with the piano, that we worked out the treble clef, the bass clef, the rhythms and the dotted notes and the half notes and the full notes and the quarter notes. So we learned everything about basic playing, and we could build from that groundwork to however far we wanted to go with music.
So with these books of spirituals that contain the music, how do you use them with children?
Well, with children first, I show them that the notes are very clear because children from 4th grade on have been introduced to learning to read the treble clef with the printed dotted notes, okay, with the C recorder. And so with the recorder then, they're taught first to blow the first notes. They learn one note, they learn another note. They're taught what that note is. Then the rhythms they can play it with, half notes, quarter notes, eighth note. So they learn how the little note will tell them the time beat for each note. And then after they learn one note, they go down with the next note. When they reach the third note, well, that's the beginning with that left hand, those 3. And they can then play. They can play a song right off, okay? Then they keep going, they work their way down to the bottom. The bottom note, you must make sure all the fingers are covering those holes. Because if you want to get a note going, until you cover all the holes, you get a squeaky sound. And when you reach the bottom, that's the one. All holes completely covered. And then if you want to play high, part of the back neck going. So you can go low, you can go high, and there's a whole world of music that opens for the playing of the C recorder.
Ashley, the specific spirituals you chose for the first 2 books of spirituals, were they chosen because of the images they suggested to you?
Generally, an artist working from any text will choose those moments in the text when images come to the mind. But in the spirituals, one can also work from the emotion. If they say in a song, sometimes I feel like a motherless child, well, just that emotion gives you a feeling of image. Or by and by, I'm going to lay down this heavy load. You also see as well as feel the emotion of it. So you combine image with emotion in the spirituals quite often.
Ashley, where and how did you gain your deeper understandings of the spirituals?
I'd always been singing the spirituals as we do from kindergarten on. But as I was beginning to illustrate them, you think more deeply about the meanings of them. You get the spirit of them from one song to another. I mean, if you're singing, Oh Martha, Oh Mary, Rocking Jerusalem, Ring Them Bells, you get a spirit of that. So you get a feeling of the joyousness that could come to a life that was enslaved. And they could recreate stories they had heard from the Bible and do some joyous singing images for them. And then there were the other songs which would tells you right out what it is. A child may sing them without understanding, like But some, like This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine. All right. Now, a little bit, I'm thinking of candles and lights and things like that. The light is your character. So as you grow older, you begin to understand that the songs may seem very swift and easy to catch the words, but the meanings keep developing. The first books of spiritual I did, Walk Together Children, was the first one. At that time, there were no books of the songs of the black American slaves for the young people to grow with. And even then, in the 60s, early 70s, the ones that had been done for adults were long out of print, could not have been found. And yet, people throughout our country sing the spirituals. They are not taught historically, so generally they do not know that the songs they love and sing come from black American slaves. So I decided, when I was just entering the field through my wonderful editor, Gene Carl, that one of my projects would be to get a book of the spirituals for young people. Now, I wanted to do them with the spirit of the early religious block printed books, because it is said that in Western art, the only time that in the early times, all art was dedicated to the greater glory of God. The cathedrals, the ritual dramas, the chants, the illuminated manuscripts. The only time that recurs was from this body of song, the thousands of songs from black American slaves. So I decided I would do it with the spirit of early illuminated, early printed, block printed books. So I wanted to cut the book blocks for each of the spirituals, and I needed to cut the music. So I devised a way of doing that. Now, it meant so much to me to let the children know the songs they sing, He's got the whole world in His hands, This Little Light of Mine, and also where they come from. Because you do not know subconsciously how what you're growing with will also come to your support later. And you will say, if black slaves, under the duress and the hardship they face, could create such a body of beautiful work, then I will persist in what I would love to do.
Ashley, in Walk Together Children, you have the beautiful spiritual In His Hands.
Yes.
Could you play a bit of that one? Everybody knows this song. I bet they don't know it's really a spiritual.
Yes, it comes from the black American slaves, and it's loved and sung throughout the world, in other countries taught historically, but in our country, the children learn and love the songs, but they very rarely know they come from black American slaves. In His hands. They've got the whole world in His hands. Little notes, quarter notes, half notes, eighth notes, and because in the songs they use syllables and they're spread out, so I have to know when I get the type where the words are, so I can print that on the plain staff where it's going to come with the words, and that will be varying for each song. So I cannot give you a page printed like this as an original. I can make a copy of this and give you. But these are hand printed. One is hand printed for the book, but I've stuck with each one. There would be all these words pasted down, and then that part. If I need this, I need a bar to do a bar. Okay, print that in. I need a base, a time signature. Whatever, but all of those are cut on these little blocks. Why? Since these songs have always meant so much to people throughout the world, and in the black families and traditions, it's at the heart of all of our music. I didn't care how long it would take to get the feeling of the printed music to go with the illustration. And so this was all a joy. It didn't matter how long it took, but every one of these songs cut in the same way and printed to be a partner to this thing. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom. So I had to keep moving and putting the notes where the words would be. These are lino cuts. They will go up as wood blocks. They are cut to look like wood blocks, not to fool anyone, but they are cut in the tradition of the wood blocks. And so, but they are lino cuts. And it doesn't matter that they say wood blocks, because it's meant, I'm approximating the wood with a material that I can carry wherever I go. I come up here in the summer, I go to Antigua, I can carry them and keep working. Because with block cutting, you cannot just go all the way through if you have any question about what to cut out, because once you cut out anything, you cannot put it back.
Right.
So you have to take your time and consider it, go to another one, get to a certain, and then keep referring back to it, and then you will have it. Now, these are my tools. They're basic tools that I've had from college days, wood cutting tools, and they present different widths for the gouges, and that's what I use in whatever I'm cutting. I will do that. If I'm digging out, I'll use a flatter tool to cut those areas, and then, but I can get whatever I'm after using this set of wood cutting tools. But they're used for all kinds of cuttings. Every so often, I will do a block print, which will be black and white. And at times, I may have gotten all of the painting, the print, as clearly as I wish. Then I will take it, and at times I will do a colored print that comes from the black and white. And that's what we're using in this publication of Walk Together Children, and I'm going to sing as the jacket designs, the colored block prints for the jackets.
Ashley, could you show us how it is when you make the prints? What does the process look like?
When I'm making the prints, I have a linoleum block, and it's unmounted, so it's light. So I can carry 10, 15 blocks with me as I travel during the 2 years or 3 years in which I'm cutting these blocks. When I have used these tools cutting a design in the block, I then will roll the ink on the block. My black ink, I'll take it out of the can, and then I will set that out on a plate. And then the ink is rolled on a plate. Now this is the black ink. Okay? I will have next to it a plate. Ink there and then rolled. Then I will take the block and roll the ink on the block. All onto the block is covered. Now the ink is only going to go on the upper level of the linoleum. Whatever is white has been dug out. Now then I take that inked block and I put it in a place. I generally mark it so I'll know exactly where, to the size of the paper. I put the paper on, and then with one of my tools, these are all hand rubbed. I do not use a press. My blocks are hand rubbed and will therefore last forever. They are not getting the pressure of a press. And I rub with my hand this way. And then after I've rubbed and rubbed and rubbed in that way, I can take the block, I lift it off, and when I lift it, you will see it coming up, and the picture will be revealed. As if, see, and that's what you will get, and that will be the print. You see, I can do as many prints from this block as I like. I can say in addition there are 50 prints I am going to do of this block. Each time I do a print, I will write on a corner 1 of 50, 5 of 50, 20 of 50, 50 of 50. Every number is of equal value. I will then sign it on the right hand side. I put the title of the spiritual in the middle. Now, when I have done this whole series of printing of the block of 50, I will then do a number called A over P, artist proof. The artist always does a number of AP prints which he can use or she use in exhibits or to give as gifts to family and friends. And that's the whole process. And block printing has gone through the beginning of times of printing and has been used in early times. Now children were taking my books and coloring them in. Now that's what was done in the first block printed books. They would cut, spear, and they would hand paint colors. So when parents told me, my child is going to your book, I said, they were doing what has always been done in block printed books. They would cut and leave the spaces and hand color the colors. So here, the cook does not have to be a beautiful woman.
Right.
Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. So I develop it, it's a whole new world of painting for me, even though I'm following this, but it's so exciting to work on that scale from these little watercolors.
Yes, it is, and the color use.
Yeah.